I want you to appreciate the restraint I am showing right now in not doing a really bad Jimmy Swaggart impersonation when I tell you that I have sinned. I have, gentle listener, committed a musician's cardinal sin, but I want to tell you that it has turned into the most wonderful and edifying object lesson about letting go and about patience and about surrender to this curious mystery that we call life in the universe. And I shall attempt to wax semi-eloquent about it. There is, of course, no formal list of the cardinal sins of musicians. If there was, I suspect it would have upon it things like bailing on a gig without telling anybody. That's a bad one. Or playing under the influence, whether that is the influence of alcohol or drugs or pheromones. You musicians out there, you know what it means to play under the influence of pheromones and what that can do to your gig. I suspect a cardinal sin of musicians, I'm talking about hired gun musicians, would be not learning the music. I know we've all played with somebody who didn't learn the music. That's a cardinal sin, kids. How about showing up your artist? That's a bad one. That is on the cardinal sin list for musicians. Showing up your artist. I didn't do any of those things. What I did, though, is another what I would call a cardinal sin, which is I got myself double booked. Got myself double booked, kids. That has never happened before. I'm not quite sure how it happened this time, but it did indeed happen. And that is a cardinal sin. You know about cardinal sins, right? Cardinal sins are a group of sins outlined by the Catholic Church, God love them, of what is also known as the 7 deadly sins. You know what they are, right? Especially you musicians. Pride, greed, lust, envy, gluttony, wrath, aka anger, and sloth. And I don't know what they got against sloths. Sloths never hurt anybody. Those are your 7 deadly sins. Those are your cardinal sins. And I'll tell you a secret, they're not in the Bible. Okay, these things are identified in the Bible. All right, these things are talked about in the Bible as not having great consequences, but there is no list in the Bible of these 7 cardinal or deadly sins. The Bible was written, there was no such thing as the Catholic Church. And it was a cat by the name of Tertullian, a Carthaginian in the 1st, 2nd century AD, who started articulating this doctrine of the cardinal sins. These are your root notes, okay? You bass players. These are the sins that form the basis of other sins. So you commit a sin like killing a dude, and that's not the original sin. The cardinal sin is the anger that drove you to it, or the lust, or the greed, or the envy, whatever. Tertullian started talking about this stuff, and he wrote a lot of stuff in Latin about Christian doctrine, okay? Dogma. And then later on, Pope Gregory I kind of codified this notion of the 7 deadly sins into existence, and we accept it now. Not all of us, but we as a culture accept this idea of the 7 deadly sins as an entity. It's not biblical. The individual sins are biblical. There is no list in the Bible that says these are the 7 deadly sins, as far as I know. Regardless, I committed the musical deadly sin of getting myself double booked, and it was an accident, and that becomes a gray area. Is it a sin if you accidentally kill a guy? That's manslaughter. Now, there's no provision in the Bible for manslaughter as far as I know. Getting yourself double booked is a bad thing, and it's a bad feeling, man. But it comes along at this really interesting moment. I am treating it as a micro of the macro because I've been pretty jumpy lately about what the future is going to be. I don't need to say again, I'm in the process of a marriage breakup. My life is changing utterly, and it's changing in curious kinds of bursts. On one hand, and from one perspective, at a snail's pace, and from another perspective, in seismic paces. It's really disorienting. But I've been freaking out a little bit at times lately about what the future is going to be. All right, I am in a full-time job, a regular job, but it's a mat leave, okay? It's a contract, and it does not have a definite end. That makes things a little bit dicey when you're trying to figure out whether to sell your house. Fortunately, my spouse and I are amicable. We can live together comfortably, and it's fine. It takes a lot of the pressure off that. But I've been, for the past year, it's been almost exactly a year now since this began, kind of riding different waves of anticipation and fear and worry about the future. And there was a period of time after it was decided we were done. I got this job. Okay, then I have some stability for the next, what we'll call foreseeable future. But the foreseeable future probably tapped out right about where I am now. So over the past couple of months, there have been moments where I don't know what to do. I don't know where I want to go. I'm freaking out. I'm trying to hold on to this faith that I've been cultivating, this little baby seedling that I've been keeping protected and trying to nurture into a full-blown tree of faith. But there have been a lot of times when it's been a little bit wilty, you know. And so I've been worried in moments about how this is going to play out and what I'm going to do and where I'm going to go and how I'm going to live. And there has been an impatience on my part because I don't know the end date of this contract. It could be a few more months. It could be almost a whole other year. Just don't know. And if you're somebody like me who is prone to anxiety, anxiety tends to be future-based. And the future is so uncertain, it's very easy to get caught up in having anxiety about it, right? And I have been at times caught in the anxiety about what the future is going to be. And that is not how we've been trying to teach ourselves to live, is it? We have been trying to adopt the Ram Dass. Be here now, all right? Have faith in the way things are. That's the Taoist perspective. Approach this life with a faith in the way things are and a faith in the way in which things will unfold. But I have been trapped at times not knowing how things are going to unfold and being very, very uptight and upset and anxious about that. Not all the time, but in moments. And I understand that change is coming. It's the not knowing when and not knowing exactly what change that begins to grind you down. And what happens in those circumstances is you lose sight of how things are at this moment, right? So I could be sitting here in my little studio, locked into an almighty battle with myself about worrying about the future or trying to orchestrate the future or whatever, and being very upset and anxious about that, and utterly missing the fact that right outside my window is the most glorious late summer day. Right? The sun is shining. The leaves are still green. It is warm. It is a beautiful day outside. And I took the day off work today to recover from the weekend I just had, which is tied to my cardinal sin. And I could be utterly missing that. I could be utterly missing that, lost utterly in this anxiety about a future that I just don't know, instead of being here, just enjoying what is a beautiful sunny day. And that is what this idea of being here now is all about. So many of us don't live so much of our life not here now. We live it in a murky future that we don't know and are afraid of. We live it in a past that we regret and can't change or long for. And we miss utterly this gorgeous sunny day that's happening outside right now. And most of the time, right now is perfectly fine and safe and peaceful if we just tap into being here right now. But I haven't been doing that. And then along comes life with this really terrific object lesson about letting go and having faith, because I have the real cardinal sin has been a lack of faith. I am anticipating and worrying about a future instead of stepping back and just knowing that things are going to unfold. How do I know that? Well, on one hand, I look at the track record, and it always has. This job of mine, with its uncertain end date, came along at precisely the moment I needed it to, in the moment when my life was falling apart. You can look at that as coincidence, you can look at that as good luck, or you can look at that as evidence that things do work out. Things do unfold. But here's me getting all wrapped up in this fear of the future, right? And so I'm at a rehearsal for Lindsay and the Lonelies a couple weeks ago because we were getting ready to perform in the great city of St. Thomas, Canada, at the Railway City Festival. All right, St. Thomas has this festival where bands play, where vendors come. It's a weekend thing, big stage. It's a good show to get. And Lindsay landed the show. Terrific. And so we're at rehearsal, and they say, we're going on at such and such time on the 17th. And I'm like, that's cool. And then I stop and I go, wait, what? 17th? Sunday? Yeah, Sunday. And then I scramble through and look through my notes, and I'm like, I got to play Sunday in Grand Bend, which is another town, with Carly Thomas, another artist. And then I'm looking more closely. I'm like, why is this not right in my calendar? And there had been a date change on Carly's gig, but I don't think that's the reason I got this screwed up. I just think I flat out screwed it up. But I was supposed to be on stage Lindsay 5 to 6, and then on stage Carly 7 to 8. Problem is, these towns are over an hour apart. And it's not like you get off stage at 6 and you teleport directly to the next place, all right? You got to tear down some of your gear. You got to clear the stage. On a festival situation like this, usually there's some photographs, and there's obligations. You don't just step off the stage and drive away. Your car's not parked right out back. I'm not Elvis. Minimum, you're talking about 15 minutes from leaving the stage to being in your car. That leaves me, in a perfect world, 45 minutes to get to a place that's like an hour and 15 minutes away. Can't be done. Can't be done. And then it leaves me in one of the worst positions a hired gun musician can be in, which is I can't play one of 2 gigs I've agreed to. That, kids, that's a bad scene. And that is a very unprofessional thing to do. And I still don't know quite how that happened. My record keeping was lax, I guess. I just got it wrong somehow. What dates the gigs were being played. And they were booked months in advance. Stuff gets in your way. You kind of forget about it. That's kind of how it rolls. It's like I get pulled through the year by dates. I don't think about the gig that I'm playing 4 months from now. I think about the gig that I've got this weekend, and my focus is on that. And then it's on the next weekend. And then we're out of town in 2 weeks. Then I've got this one on that date. The one that's 4 months away doesn't come into focus for 4 months. So something went awry. Something got screwed up. I didn't have the dates right, or I didn't have them inputted right. And then I wasn't thinking about it because it's not on the radar yet. The next gig is on the radar, which is a version of being here now, by the way. So here I find myself about 2 weeks before this is going down, having double booked myself, which is an awful feeling. When I found out about this, we were packing up from rehearsal, and I just sat down and I'm like, this can't be. And this fear runs through me, because I do pride myself on professionalism. I do not say that I am a professional drummer. I try to be professional in my conduct with the drumming ability that I have. And then to find myself having done something so unprofessional, not unforgivable, and it does happen, but by my standards, by my books, unprofessional. And I just sat there and I panicked, and I had to shoot an immediate text to Carly. Here's my recommendation, by the way. You find yourself having committed these sorts of cardinal sins, own it. Okay, take responsibility for that. The professional thing to do is to say, I don't know what happened, but something happened. I got this screwed up. It's on me. I need to try to fix it if I can. Not to try to blame it on this or blame it on that or blame it on somebody else or what you said, but he said, but we agreed this. No, man, if you commit a cardinal sin in any aspect of life, but I'm speaking specifically musically here, you commit that cardinal sin, own it, take responsibility for it. And what you've got to understand and accept is that there may be consequences for the cardinal sin. All right, now I'm lucky. I've been playing with both Lindsay and Carly for over 10 years. Okay, we have a rapport, we have a history, we have a friendship. It's not always the case, though. You may be playing with people for whom I've talked about myself being an interchangeable drummer unit before, for whom you really are. And you go and get yourself double booked and you message the artist and you're like, dude, I screwed up. I got 2 dates. You never play with that artist again. All right. You double booked yourself. You can't do my gig. You're toast. You're done. And you have to accept in committing the cardinal sin, even if it was accidental, even if you didn't know you were doing it, you have to accept that there may be repercussion for that. All right. Part of owning your mistakes is accepting that there may be consequences for it. There was a possibility that I would say to Carly and to Lindsay, I'm double booked and I have to choose to play one of the dates, and the other person may be offended by that, upset by that, and get somebody else in on the gig, and that somebody else has the chair from there on. All right, this is kind of a cutthroat business. You have to learn along the way that stuff will get you fired. And sometimes it's not even stuff that's fireable. Sometimes it just bloody happens. Then you give them a reason. Very, very risky business. And there will be times when taking ownership of your mistakes means that you've got to eat that. And I may have had to eat that I was going to lose one of those gigs, possibly permanently. I mean, that is the nature of the game. Fortunate thing is, I have a rapport with both of these artists. They get it. Weird stuff happens sometimes. And we all committed ourselves, and I'm grateful for this, committed ourselves to trying to find a solution. All right. And the solution was going to be for one gig or the other to have their stage time changed. Just buy me an hour. This is what we need. We need to buy me an hour so I can do one gig and get to there, because I don't want to let anybody down. And this is not, my motivation here was not, no, I want both gigs and I want all the money. It's not it. I don't want to let anybody down. These are my friends, okay? These are artists I play with. They're also my friends, all right? And as much as I put into them, they put into me, okay? It's their music and I'm playing their music and I am bringing that to the table. But they are also giving me that opportunity. They are also trusting me with their art. And that is a position of enormous privilege, by the way. Somebody trusting you with their art is one hell of a compliment. And I do not take that lightly. And so I did not want to let my artists down. I did not want to let my friends down with this huge, incredible blunder. But they were both very gracious about it. And so both messaged the organizers of the festivals I was about to play, and they were both big gigs. These were not throwaway bar gigs. Not that any gig is a throwaway, but there are levels here, okay? These were not throwaway bar gigs. These were good gigs, all right? Lindsay's playing Railway City Festival. Carly's playing the Sunset Sounds on the Beach in Grand Bend, Ontario, Canada. Ontario's west coast. Big band shell set right on the beach. The band watches the sun go down over Lake Huron. A lot of people. It's a community event. It's a big stage. It's a big audience. It's a big gig. And that's putting both of those people, Carly and Lindsay, in a rough position of possibly needing a fill-in for what is a big gig. And I still feel really, really bad about it. But I'm grateful to both of them for, instead of getting annoyed with me, committing to finding a solution, right? And so they both immediately messaged the organizers of these events to say, look, we have a conflict. Can we change the set time to accommodate? And I appreciate both of them doing that. Now, this is like on a Wednesday night this is going down. And I'm hoping that by Thursday, Friday, we've got the answer and all is well. But the answer did not immediately come. In fact, the answer took a dang long time to come. And so I am there stewing because I have created this, all right? I have made the mistake. I have made this situation, which is bad for a lot of people. And I want relief from it. I want to know it's going to be okay. And I'm negotiating with the universe, you know? Please, today, I'm setting the intention that today we'll get an answer on this. And it didn't come. And it was pretty damn close to a week and a half that I sat there being forced to be patient in awaiting the outcome of the situation. Do you see the micro of the macro? I had to sit there and observe and practice not just patience in awaiting the answer. The Tao says, do you have the patience to wait until your mud settles and the water is clear? Do you have the patience to wait for an answer? Pickleball is the same. Pickleball is life. Do you have the patience to hang in that dink battle, going back and forth until somebody finally pops up the chance for you to put the ball away? Or do you try to force that and hit it into the net? Same thing. So I'm sitting there for a week and a half having to exercise, again, not just the patience, but the faith. Patience and faith go hand in hand together. I had to practice the faith that everything was going to work out great. Okay, there was an ideal solution to this situation. The ideal solution to the situation was Lindsay flips with another act and we go on an hour earlier. From the beginning, that was the ideal situation. We had to sit there and wait. And in the week and a half that we're waiting, I'm imagining I'm scrambling, trying to help Carly find a fill-in drummer. Easier to find a fill-in for her show than for Lindsay's show, just under these circumstances. And I'm beginning to think about that. And then I'm imagining how this could go badly. You know, I have this tendency, maybe you do too, to imagine how things can go badly. There was somebody who posted on Threads this week and said, what's the best piece of advice you ever got from a therapist? Interesting question. One of the most resonant that I ever got from my therapist was to switch the focus away from how things could go wrong into how things can work out great. Literally taking your focus and perspective away from the fear response of how things can go badly into how can things work out great, right? How can this situation work out great? Well, it can work out great if Lindsay gets to switch her set time and we still get to play a good slot on this festival. And then I have time to scramble to the next gig and everybody's covered and everybody's happy. Ideal solution. And there I am for a week and a half, kind of negotiating with the universe and trying to will this answer into existence. And the message was resounding. Have patience and have faith that things are going to work out. And I extrapolate that. I put that into the macro, into the much larger life situation that I'm dealing with right now, which is needing kind of an answer to a problem, which is what's going to happen here, and wanting the answer now. And this is what the anxiety came from. This is the cause of the most recent sort of uneasiness, not knowing the answer and wanting to, and losing sight, losing this little tenuous hold on the faith that everything's going to work out in its own time. So let's go back to last weekend. The Carly Band is booked in Collingwood, Ontario, on the shores of Georgian Bay to play this wonderful community series there at an amphitheater. Terrific. We drive up, we get there, we're set up on stage, we're sound checking, and I get a message from Lindsay that says, they switched our set time. Talk about relief, man. I could have puddled right there on the ground. But what was it? The ideal solution to the problem. The ideal solution to the problem. We got our set time moved up an hour, and therefore I had an extra hour to get to the gig. And it was like, see, the ideal solution came exactly when it was supposed to come. And then we could play that show and be relieved and feel really good. And thank you, Lindsay, and thank you, Carly, for your accommodation under these circumstances. I do appreciate that. And so all that went down yesterday. This is Monday. Both gigs went down yesterday. And there was another little reinforcement, which is really terrific, because I played the gig with Lindsay and the Lonelies in St. Thomas, Railway City Festival. The gig went great. The band played great. We had a really good time playing together. And I think people liked it. My impression from what I could see out in the audience is that people were into it, which is really cool. It's always nice to see that because Lindsay is a terrific songwriter. We have a new record coming out soon, kids. Neon Moon. And I've heard some of the mixes and really, really good stuff. And I can say that because I didn't write it. I played on it. I sang on it. But this is Lindsay's stuff and she's terrific. And it's really edifying and gratifying to watch audiences who've not heard her play before react to the music that she's presenting. It's very different. It's very unique and really, really fun to see that. And so we get done. We get off stage. They want some pictures for the festival. Okay, we do that. Then I got to change out of costume. Oh, yeah, costume. And I got to scramble my way an hour and 15 minutes or so to the shores of Lake Huron, to Grand Bend. And I'm doing that as quickly as I can, trying to be as patient as I can while driving within the acceptable speed limit and trying not to get frustrated by slow drivers, etc. Got to have patience, got to have faith. All right, I've already seen the way in which the universe has worked this out exactly as I needed it to be worked out. And I know I'm going to make it on time. All right, I don't have to be all anxious and panicky about getting there on time. I know it's going to work out and it's fine. The question I've got is, where am I going to park when I get to Grand Bend? Busy spot, okay? Very, very busy spot, especially on a day like yesterday, which was sunny, hot. It's been a sunny, hot summer. A lot of people around. Parking, somewhat limited. And I'm on my way thinking, this is important. You know, if you're an hour and a half early for your gig, you can park wherever and you're fine. You've got time. But if you're going to arrive, in my case, 15, 20 minutes before, you don't really have that luxury, okay? You need a good parking spot. And I'm like, okay, let's not freak out about parking. Let's just get there and trust that parking is not going to be an issue. You know, you can set intentions, all right? I mean, literally set intentions. I do this every day. Every day I get up and as I'm having a shower, making breakfast, whatever, I set intentions for the day. And one of the ones that I set yesterday was parking's not going to be an issue in Grand Bend. That may sound crazy to you, but even if it is just a placebo, it's way better than freaking out about parking. So I gets to Grand Bend. I got time. I'm good. I can hear when I pull into the little parking lot beside the stage, I can hear Carly on stage sound checking. That's how close we are, man. All right, we were not the headliner or act. So the headliner had already done a sound check, I assume. They were good to go. Usually the opener will do what they call a line check and just play. So let's go in, check your microphone levels, make sure everything's okay, do a very quick monitor mix. Not a full-on sound check, just a line check. And a lot of the time at a festival where there's a lot of bands one after the other, all you get is a line check. And you've got to hope you get it right, or at least close enough to right that you can hear what's going on as you play the gig. But I can hear Carly's doing her line check already. This is how close the margin was. Slicing it wafer thin. But I pull in and I take a little left into the parking lot, and there before me, 2 car lengths in, is a beautiful, wide open parking space. And I said out loud in my car, what a wonderful universe this is. Oh, what a wonder you are, universe. Providing pretty much ideal parking exactly where I need it. And the funny bit is there were other spots in the lot. I just hadn't seen them yet. There were ones that were closer to the stage. Doesn't matter. The point is I set an intention for easy parking. I got easy parking. I didn't even have to pay for it. It was after 6 o'clock. And then I hooked up with the band. We went up, the Carly band. It was the windiest stage upon which I have ever played. I mean, I've played windy stages before. I've had cymbals blow over. It's a crapshoot playing in the summertime. You know, if you're going to get rain, thunderstorm, crazy wind, freezing cold, which happens especially on the shores of Lake Huron. I've had all of those things happen on outdoor summer gigs, all of them. And then I've had freezing temperatures on winter gigs too. You're always at the mercy of the weather when you play outside. And I've been lucky. I've played a lot of outdoor gigs this summer and we haven't had one single rainout. I think that's a record. I don't know if that's ever happened. I've played on this particular beach in Grand Bend where a storm blew up and I literally had to grab the merch tent as it flipped over and started rolling down the beach. I had to grab one of the iron legs and hold on to it for dear life so it didn't blow away. I've had that happen. So this was a crazy windy stage, though. They had sandbags holding the cymbal stands down. One of those. And it becomes just another memory, right? But we played great, and we got off the stage, and it was like, we did it. I did it. Life did it. And I look back upon that this morning, and I put it in the context of the macro. The macro is, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't have an answer. I don't know when my contract ends. I don't know where I'm going to go. I don't know what I'm going to do. And the micro is, I don't know the resolution to this conflict of dates. And I'm being forced to wait on the answer. And waiting on the answer is a forging fire. It's a crucible. It is, can you sit patiently? Can you wait until the mud settles and the water is clear? And that is a practice. It takes practice. Sometimes life puts you in situations that obligate you to practice this patience, practice this faith, cultivate both. And I was prepared for it to not work out the way I wanted, to not work out in the ideal way, and to take what object lesson I could from that. But I take this whole incident of the double booking and I extrapolate that into life at this moment. And it's just a reminder that you can wait for the answers to come. And you can trust that they will come in their time and they will be the right answers. You can trust that things will unfold in the best possible way. Sometimes you need to be reminded of that. I was reminded of that throughout the tiny saga of the double booking. And so I offer to you, gentle listener, this week, the encouragement to have the patience to wait until the mud settles. If you are in a situation right now where you're desperate for an answer, treat that as an opportunity to practice. Treat that as an opportunity to practice having faith in the way things are and faith in the way things will unfold, and cultivating this practice of looking at how things can work out great. Instead of being worried and anxious about how things could go wrong, shift the focus into how could things go great, and think about how things could go great. You know, I had to turn it around. I had to spend some time focusing on, yeah, it's logical and fairly easy to get one of those set times changed. It's not that hard to do. And that could work out great. It's an easy and reasonable solution to the problem. And then you have this faith You just cultivate it. It's going to work out. It's going to work out. And it did. And it provided me at the time that I needed it, which is another example of timing, just a little micro that I can apply to the macro and not worry so much anymore about how things are going to unfold or when in this weird changing life that I'm living right now. And so I offer that to you. If you are being forced to wait on an answer, if you're being forced to wait on an outcome, take a look at that and ask yourself, to what extent is this life teaching me patience? Life teaching me trust? Or can you look at situations you've had in the past where you've been forced to wait and then things eventually unfolded in exactly the most perfect way? And can you hold on to that? Can you hold on to that? Can you believe in a universe that is benevolent? That's not always been the case for me. And I'm trying real hard to cultivate that right now. And so that's this week's thing. That's this week's thing. But I want to get back to another practice, which is making music recommendations. And so I'm going to do one of those right now for all of you heavy metal rock and roll fans out there. I am recommending the new release by the LA prog metal band Wings of Steel. Wings of Steel, who have a new record coming out in October. It's called Winds of Time, and they've released a single for it recently. The song is called We Rise, and this one is aimed squarely at anybody who was a fan of mid-'80s Queensryche. This song kicked in, I'm like, they've been listening to Queensryche. They've been listening to Rage for Order. They've been listening to Operation Mindcrime, because the vocals, the intro, there's a quiet, sort of moody intro, chorusy kind of guitar, and then a scream. That's so Queensryche. So Queensryche from about 1985. And then into this riff that is 100% something Queensryche would have written on any of those first three records. Something pre-Empire. And it's terrific. It's terrific. For those of us who grew up loving that music, it reminded me of a lot of Christian bands too. There was a period of time in the late 80s, early 90s, when almost every other Christian metal band that came out, and you can do what you will with that term, sounded like Queensryche. They just sounded like Queensryche. Sacred Warrior and Haven and Recon. They just sounded like Queensryche. And when I listened to this, it harkened me back to a few of those bands. I'm like, yeah, I can see that. I wonder if the members of Wings of Steel have any sort of evangelical connection. This is a great song. Great song. And it's 100% Queensryche. I'm just telling you, it sounds like Queensryche. It's a clean vocal, a metal vocal, but clean. That was Jeff Tate, right? Like, Jeff Tate had this extraordinary range, could do so many things with his voice, but for the most part sang really clean. A really pristine vocal timbre, as Justin Hawkins would say. Similar voice, incredible guitar work, like really, really crackerjack players, these guys. And this is just a fun throwback mid-'80s prog Queensryche Fates Warning sounding tune. It is Wings of Steel, We Rise. So those of you who have been missing my music recommendations, a lot of you aren't necessarily metalheads, but for those of you who are, go check out We Rise by Wings of Steel and their record Winds of Time, coming out, I believe, October 17th. And you can jump on that right now and do a little rocking and or rolling. I hope you have taken something valuable from this episode. Please drop me a line and let me know if you have or if you haven't. And I want to thank you. I want to thank you again for hanging through this transition from the JHP to Semi-Eloquent. It's been fun so far. And I'm thinking about putting a newsletter together. I think I might do a mail list. I'm thinking about bringing back the Patreon. I got new merch ideas. So there's stuff that's going to be unfolding as we go here. So please do hang in. Please do tell your friends if you like these episodes. Do me a solid if you can and share them. Tell somebody. Ratings and reviews on iTunes. I would dearly love that from a bunch of you. warms my cockles. My voice is starting to give out and we're at 40 minutes. So thanks again for listening. I know this is throwback, but it remains true. Good things happen when you put yourself out there, and exercise a little faith, kids, okay? If you're struggling with patience, look at that as discipline. Look at that as practice and cultivate that patience. Cultivate that faith, and you too may wind up with really good parking at Grand Bend. Tschüss.